Back in 2022, I took a journey back in time and had a look at all of the app purchases I did that first year I owned my first Apple product, which was an iPhone. It was the first year I was trying to be creative on the platform, and there was something that struck me. You see, back in 2012, most of the apps that I downloaded and most of the apps that I used were either free or they were priced extremely low, $1 or $2. And some of the apps I even had gifted to me by close friends. However, the year after, in 2013, something changed because I made a whole lot more app purchases. And there's many reasons to why I started doing that. First of all, I realized that the platform had a lot on offer. Number two, I was having fun. And number three, the prices were really low, even when they were higher. Even when I was buying $5 apps, I was still buying just $5 apps. I couldn't believe it because I came from a desktop world and a hardware world, and I paid way more back in the day for gear and software. And suddenly I'm on this platform with professionally sounding stuff, but for just a few dollars. It was insane. And surprisingly, a lot of the apps that I purchased back in 2013, they're still here. But then again, some aren't. And so yeah, I kind of want to start on a somber note and talk about some of those apps that, well, are no longer with us. But before we start talking about apps, I just want to show you where we are on the timeline. Now, 2013 was a very important year for iOS music making and the technologies that allowed apps to communicate with one another. Because before 2013, apps were pretty much islands of their own. They couldn't talk to each other over audio or MIDI. But in 2013, the AudioBus software development kit got released. And not only that, the amazing audio engine software development kit got released. And then in September, iOS 7 got released with 64-bit architecture support for CPUs. And not only that, we got to see core audio get upgraded with inter-app audio. So now Apple was natively supporting a way for apps to communicate with one another over audio. Now, if you're wondering about this timeline, it's a timeline I made inside an app called Timeline 3D, and I made it for a video called The Evolution of the iOS Music Making Platform, and I've put a link to it down in the pinned comment if you want to go and see it. Now, for some of these apps, I just cannot produce any new material because I don't have access to the app anymore and they're gone from the App Store. So I'm going to have to borrow some content from other YouTube channels, but I will be crediting them down in the pinned comment in the description. And I will also put up this box in the upper left corner with the title of the video and also the YouTube channel name. So, is there anyone in the audience that remember an app called SidPad? Or how about an app called Interpol? Now, these are two apps that were released by a company called Twisted Electrons. It's a company that still exists today, and they make hardware synthesizers, very delicious looking synthesizers. But at some point in time, back in 2013, they were making iOS apps. And now those apps have been scrubbed off the App Store. In fact, the entire company has been scrubbed off the App Store. And when I say scrubbed, I mean they're no longer available in the library of apps that I've purchased. And there are so many reasons to why an app might be taken off the App Store. And I'll just put it up here because I've tried to re-record this segment so many times and it always ends up being 5 minutes long. You know, it always sucks when this happens and there is no clear solution to this because this problem is not black and white. And I will be making a video on this topic for next year, 2024, so keep an eye out for that one. In any case, I want to keep on focusing on some of the apps that are gone. So when it comes to SidPad, would I still be using it? Maybe, I don't know. What I can say though is that I am a chip tune lover because I grew up with the Commodore 64. And I fell in love with the sounds that the SID chips produce, so much so that in my 20s I actually built my own SID synthesizer. And it is very powerful, and I haven't found any replacements for that one yet either, because of how powerful it is and how much it has on offer. Then again, whenever I want to make chip tunes, I can use whatever synthesizer I want because I already understand that type of synthesis so well that any synthesizer will do. As long as I have a bit crusher and a few LFOs, I'm good to go, which is how I made this chiptune track with Moog Model D as my main sound source. Now there is this one app though I want to highlight if you are into chiptune music, and that is SID Tracker 64 by Daniel Larsson. Now this is an older app and it was last updated 4 years ago, and it does an extremely good emulation of what a SID chip sounds like. Now this is an older app, so it doesn't support AUE3, but it does support inter-app audio, and I think audio bus too. But the thing is, it is a tracker, right? So you might want to run it as a standalone app anyway. Alright, so let's move on. Anyone remember Pulse Code Inc? Because they had this amazing set of apps called Boom. There was Boom 808 and Boom 909. Right, so here we have two older, quite popular drum machines. But yeah, there was another app that Pulse Code Inc. made that had a lot of in-app purchases in it, and it's completely gone. It's called Modular Synthesizer. It was this bright white modular synthesizer with a skeuomorphic design, and it had so much on offer. Now here's an interesting fact though. When it comes to Boom 808 exclamation mark and Boom 909 exclamation mark, including a third app called Rhythm Studio, all made by Pulse Code Inc., I can download all of them from the library. However, I can't open the App Store pages for these apps because they're just simply not available. Now, when it comes to modular synthesizer though, it's completely gone. I can't reach it. I can't find it. It's like it never existed on the App Store. And I don't know what the deal is. First, I thought maybe it was because I didn't buy any of the in-app purchases, but then I remembered, hey, I did pay for some other apps and those aren't available at all either. So that can't be it. It's really frustrating not knowing what's going on here. So the interesting question here is, would I still be using Modular Synthesizer by Pulse Code Inc. if it was available to me today? And the answer is probably. On occasion I would, because I do like changing my production environment from time to time, and I do that all the time with other apps, right? So I would probably do it here with the modular stuff. Now, what are the alternatives for those of you who want modular stuff? Well, I would say if you're into the Moog sound and you're into modulars, then you should really go for Moog Model 15 because it's an incredibly good app. But if you're into that Eurorack stuff, then you should without a doubt go for MyRack, which is one of the most in-depth modular systems for iOS. Now, a good alternative for the Boom 808 and 909 apps would be Pure Acid. I know it does more, it's a groove box, but it does contain a drum machine with both sets of sounds that you can switch between. Plus, I think is it the 606 or 707? Either way, you get more, right? And it has a sequencer, so you can pretty much work the same way you did with those, but with Pure Acid instead. Plus, it's AUV3, so all good. Oh yeah, it has multi AUV3 out also, so you can individually process the bass line from the drum sounds and things like that. Now, if you're looking for pure drum synthesis and you want to be able to make your own 808s and 909s, I would go for FAC Drum Kit because that thing can make any type of drum sounds you want. It's just a very good drum synth, but it doesn't contain its own sequencer. And if that is important to you and you are not too keen on having just 808 and 909 sounds, I would say go for Hammerhead Rhythm Station. It is a great app. It's got a sequencer, it can be used as a groove box, you can load samples, it has its own drum synth. Yeah. So moving on the list, TF7 was one of those apps that became very popular very quickly because it was an incredibly good sounding FM synth. So here we are once again. Another app I can't find. It's as if I've never had it downloaded on any iDevice, not available in my library. And if I follow an older link I can find somewhere online, I do get the App Store opening, but then the App Store tells me not available in your region. And again, I don't know what that means. Does it mean that if I go to some other country, I can download it? Probably not, because this was most definitely a 32-bit architecture app. And since Apple did drop all support for 32-bit apps back in 2017, there's no way we're gonna get access to this app, even though I think it's still on the App Store. And I honestly don't know if it's worth it for the developer to actually pick this up and rewrite the code, because this is definitely a rewrite of the entire code to make it fit contemporary standards. Now, what's even sadder is that I can't provide you with much information about the app either, because it's been years since I used it last. I do remember that it had a nice keyboard with scales and stuff, and it also had some nice sounding effects like delay and reverb, and the synth was deep and sounded really, really good, but that's about it. Yeah, I mean, there used to be more sites back in the day that wrote about these apps and stuff, and many of them have closed down ever since Apple removed the Apple affiliate for apps, meaning we haven't been able to earn any money from app links for many years, even though a lot of people still think that that's a thing. So, some quickfire alternatives. Well, I would say that Nambu is one of the most powerful synthesizers on iOS, and in it you can have up to 6 FM operators, but it can do more than that. Go and check my video on it. I'll put a link to it down in the pinned comment and also in the description. Really good synthesizer. Also, ButterSynth contains a 4-operator FM synthesizer as one of the options for the oscillators you have. So yeah, if you got that one, you're good to go. Now, if you don't have any of those and you want a pure FM synthesizer, I would highly recommend haQ Dixie. It sounds absolutely great, like an old school DX FM synthesizer. Personally, I'm not too fond of the visual style, and mainly because my ADHD brain doesn't like when my apps are blinking too much, and it feels like this one is doing that because of the contrast here. But yeah, it's a great synth. You can't go wrong with it if you're into FM synthesis. Now, if you're looking for FM sounds, but you're not necessarily looking for the FM synthesizer part of it, then I would highly recommend going for the AudioKit FM instruments. If you're a Cubasis user, Cubasis was recently updated, and with that update, there are now a bunch of in-app purchases available, and 2 of them are FM instruments, and they sound absolutely amazing. Alright, moving on. Another app that has completely disappeared is SpaceWiz by Wisdom Music. This is a Jordan Rudess app, and the reason to why I love this app was because it's perfect for when your device is a huge touch screen.
I'll move to full screen. Now in this screen, you'll notice that sounds are just happening. The reason they're happening is because sounds can also be generated by chaos control. We have particles moving all through the spatial environment that are just randomly entering and knocking into planets.
So SpaceWiz is a generative music app with a planetary system as your interface. And I just think that's brilliant. And I don't know why we haven't seen more apps like this coming out since this one came out, because there aren't any. Why? Why aren't there any? I hope that some developer is watching this right now and can hear the pain in my voice and just go, I'm gonna make this, because yeah, that looks really cool, and it is perfect for a huge touchscreen. Sad thing again is that I can't find it anywhere. It's not in my app library, so I can't download it again, and at some point, for some reason, which I can't even remember why or when, I deleted it off one of my older iPads, and now I can never ever open this app again and just test it out. Yeah, it's a shame, and we're just gonna move on.
But Jakob, what about the alternatives?
I don't know what to tell you. I've been looking for many years, and I haven't been able to find a single alternative to this. Nothing with a visual style, built-in instruments, and an interface that works quite like SpaceWiz. Now, if there are any apps out there like SpaceWiz that I have missed with some awesome technologies in there, like AUV3 and MIDI, then let me know, because I am tired of looking for one.
SpaceWiz has a real-time synthesizer built in. If we go to the sparkling sun patch, we can check it out. Go to full screen here. And when my finger lands on the playing surface, now it's more like an instrument to where you're actually going to be playing whatever scale is selected on the screen.
You know, 2023 has been rough enough for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you too. I'm not going to whine about that, but the thing is, I'm not getting any happier. I'm actually getting a bit depressed talking about all of these apps that are now gone. So I'm only going to mention one more, and then I'll jump on to happier things. All right, so Thor Polysonic Synthesizer was this very powerful synth, and for a very long time, it was one of my go-to synthesizers. It's very Swedish. Try it. Oi. Oi. I loved Thor so much. So much so that I even dedicated a whole video to it and another app that I bought the year 2013, which was Waldorf Nave. But there's only one of these synthesizers left because Thor is gone. However, I can still download it from my library. I can't see the product page for it anymore, but I can download it. And it actually runs on my iPad Pro M2. So I guess it's not completely sad, but sad for anyone who wanted to try this synthesizer out. Now I want to end this very somber segment on a happy note. Yes, Waldorf Nave is still available. It hasn't been updated for over 5 years, but it is still available for download and purchase. So you can go buy it now and try it out. I think it's worth the money even though it doesn't have, well, any support for AUV3. You have to use inter-app audio, and if you're new to that stuff, it can be kind of cumbersome to even set up, but it is a great sounding synth. Now, if you needed alternatives for either of these two synthesizers, then I would again recommend Buttersynth and or Nambu. Buttersynth, when it comes to wavetables, is extremely in-depth. On top of it, it can also do all kinds of subtractive synthesis because it has so many filter types. It can do phase distortion, it can do FM synthesis, and yeah, it's even got sample playing and granular synthesis in there too. And it's the same thing with Nambu, only it is more specified on FM synthesis, so it does that really well together with AM synthesis, and then on top of that it can do the other stuff too. So those two synthesizers, they are extremely deep. They fill a lot of synthesis needs for anyone into pure synthesis. So yeah, that's why I keep referencing them, and that's why you should go and watch the videos I made on them. And that ends the sad segment. First out is MIDI Designer Pro 2. It's a very, very good app for, well, it's a platform for building your own MIDI controlling surfaces. And you can build stuff that you can use to control both software and hardware. And if you've been following me for a while, you've seen me do exactly that. I've controlled everything from hardware synthesizers to even plugins inside Korg Gadget. Now, the most memorable project was the Nova MIDI controller surface I did. And I did that because I needed an editor to circumvent the incredibly brutal menu diving that comes with the Nova. Inside this template, you'll find 448 controllers. mapped in here. And I did eventually sell the Mini Nova, but not because of MIDI Designer Pro. No, for entirely other reasons. And if you want to hear about those reasons, you can go and watch the video I made about selling my Mini Nova. But yeah, if you need an app in where you can build your own MIDI surfaces or MIDI controllers, then MIDI Designer Pro is still being developed. You can still purchase it. And the latest update wasn't too long ago either. Now, the next app is an app that I featured heavily on my channel those first years I was making haQ attaQ videos, and it is Beep Street's Impaktor. So this is an app that uses the microphone to listen to the environment around the iDevice, iPad and or iPhone. And so you can clap your hands, you can tap a table, you can beatbox into this thing, and basically turns all of that audio into synthesized sound, percussive sounds, drum sounds. It's an incredibly responsive app, and the synthesis goes deep with this one. And not only could you use the microphone, no, you could connect a sound interface to it, and you could use a mixer and some contact mics, and the only thing that kept it from being perfect was the fact that it was missing a shuffle and or swing feature, and I really need that for my music. Now, I do want to clarify something about Impaktor, and that is the fact that it is actually a drum synthesizer. I've seen some comments online from people thinking it's not, but that's incorrect. There is a CarPlus Strong or resonator synthesis engine in there. There's some FM synthesis happening. Yeah, the synthesis is very strong inside Impaktor. However, it's a very old app. But with that said, it is still available on the App Store. You can buy it and download it today to try it out, and it's very much fun. The problem is though that I wouldn't recommend you using a headset with a built-in microphone. It's got 6 tracks, it even quantizes stuff for you if you want that, but there is no swing, and that's annoying. However, there is a way you can get an Impaktor-like behavior inside Drambo. You see, Beep Street, who made Impaktor, made Drambo, and all of the synthesis modules that you can find inside Impaktor, along with envelope followers and everything else you need to trigger these sounds, they're inside Drambo. But I've been trying to build such a patch for over 2 years, and I cannot get the sensitivity correct. It's either too sensitive, it double triggers, or it's not sensitive enough. So for 2 years I've been trying, and that's why I haven't made a video about it. I haven't been able to get a patch to a state where I feel satisfied with my work. If I ever get to a state where I'm able to have an Impaktor-like drumming session with multiple channels inside Drambo, believe me, I will make a video about it. Now, the next app I want to talk about is an app that, well, it's basically one of the most important apps for me and my creativity. And I actually didn't pay for this myself. It was gifted to me by my best friend and brother, Jeff. And it is Cubase's 2 by Steinberg. Me and him, we worked on music all the time back in the days, but we were working with Cubase on desktop computers before I completely went mobile with all of my music. So when he saw that, he purchased it and gifted it to me. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I heard that Cubasis was on here. I've been a Cubase guy ever since Cubase came out, so I'm incredibly biased towards it. And it was actually recently updated with a bunch of helium-based instruments that all sound very, very good. And I must say the lo-fi piano and the FM stuff is just gorgeous sounding stuff. I cannot overstate how much I use Cubasis. Right now, I'm recording my narration straight into Cubasis, where I'm editing all of it. Not only that, all of my audio goes through here. So yeah, it's a very important app to me, and I'm glad that it's still receiving love from the developers. Now the next app is Organ Plus by haQ, and this one is very important because haQ has been one of those top-notch developers on the platform that has been here since the App Store even became a thing. And his stuff is some of the best on the platform. And I recently interviewed him about his development history and everything back when I made my video on Trooper Synthesizer.
When Audiobus first came out, that thing was very, very easy to integrate. I mean, those guys really did their homework. They really did a great job. AUV3, it did require a certain amount of recoding and whatever, because I've been doing this from the beginning. Some stuff just makes it work better.
And I'll of course link to that down in the pinned comment. But yeah, it was so interesting finally talking to the guy who has been making some of my most favorite tools. And Galileo Organ, or Galileo Organ 2 as it's called now, which is the latest version, is absolutely one of the best organ apps on the App Store. And it's so cool because it's not a sample-based instrument. No, it's physical modeling. So it's basically synthesis made to sound like organs. Now, there were a lot more apps that I bought that are still available on the App Store today that you can actually buy and download. But remember, when you're buying these old apps, a lot of them, they haven't been updated with contemporary standards, so no AUV3. I want to mention one app, and that app is Music. I want everybody to try this app out. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it's an older app. It doesn't support AUV3. I don't even think it supports inter-app audio. If you want to use anything you make in this app, you have to record it internally and then you have to bring it out of the app into another app some other way by using audio copy paste or something like that. So yeah, it's very old. But even with that said, you just have to try this out. here inside AUM, I've got my microphone loaded on one channel, got music loaded in the other one, but it's using an inter-app audio node because it's an old app. So when we press the icon here, we're gonna get launched to the app. Now I suggest you use it in standalone mode because it's so old, it doesn't have MIDI, it doesn't have AUV3, it's even hard to get your samples in there even though it does have a sample import. So we're gonna press new song and I'm giving you the simplest crash course just to get started to show you how fun this could be, because there is a really good tutorial in here which I do recommend that you follow, and when you buy the pro version you get access to everything inside here and it will show you how to use it basically. So here we have a line already drawn in a new project, and this thing can actually be automated. You can move it around, and that's how I made the Pong thing. Now I'm gonna draw a new line over here and draw a new one over here. As you can see, we can draw them any way we want, basically like this. Even put some on the sides here. Well, next we can generate notes, and we do that with these 4 instrument generators here. So basically they're playing up samples and they're following a scale in the background horizontally. Now you can switch out these sounds up here. Right now we've got soft mallets loaded, but if you look over here we have user sound kits. Here I've made some of my own, and we can also make new ones by pressing here, and we can select between the ones already in here by sliding on these names, and we can also press the plus sign and we get in here where we can load our samples. The best way I've found is to use audio paste. Now I'm going to press cancel here, and we're just going to use whatever we have here already. Notes will bounce off surfaces. And these have physics, which is interesting. And we can also generate notes with this thing here. And if we press up here, we can pause everything. Now, if we take this and we have it selected, we can see we have some options down here. We can select what type of sample player it's using: square, triangle, the rectangular one, and circle. And we also have a step sequencer here. And with this, you can decide how notes are being generated. So if we remove this one and put all of them over here, it's going to do this. And I think it created way too many, and maybe I don't want them to bounce around too many times. And then you can remove nodes by putting a black hole here, which is white, but yeah. And there is another thing you can do, which is you can tie things to the lines in here. Let me show you. You select one of these elements and you tap down and hold it, and then you tap one of the lines and you create a little thing like this, and now it can swing back and forth here. And as you can hear, it automatically creates polyrhythms, which is so nice. Now, if we go down here, there are more stuff because we can add effects, we can add modulators, we can mess with the scale. If you move this one back and forth and you lock it into space, you can have it switch between scales. There are hours, weeks, months, days, years of fun to have inside music. And I suggest you go get it right now because this is a really fun app. By the way, pinch to zoom out, de-pinch to zoom in. So yeah, you can see the playing field is pretty big and there's a lot of space to work with. Go get this app. You do not want to miss out on this one. Archiving is very important to me. And that is something we just don't get to do accurately with apps because we have to go through the same app store and they can change their terms and the way that they work on a dime. And sometimes when they do that, developers just can't be bothered to pick up and recode stuff because maybe they're not making any money from it. as I've shown you before, apps can disappear from the App Store for many, many reasons. And it's not black and white what to do with this. And in none of these reasons is anyone ever really trying to be an a-hole towards their customers. It's just that things happen in life and things change, and sometimes Apple don't want to have thousands of terabytes of old apps that have been abandoned a long time ago stored on their service. There's so many reasons, right? None of them are really evil if you believe in that concept. Thing is that we're going to keep losing apps, and the only way we can make sure that we get to keep what we pay for, which is not the code itself, it's just a license, but if you want to keep an app, then at some point when you've been using an iDevice for some time, like 4 or 5 years, you might want to consider getting a new one and locking the one you currently have down, meaning you do not upgrade it anymore. No more new iOS updates. You download all the apps you want stored on there, and then you shelve that thing until you need it again. Because it's the only way you can be not 100% sure, but sure that you have the stuff you paid for and that you can use it in the future. And, I'm so sad that I've lost so many good apps. I'm sad that I can't go back and check them and compare them and do interesting content with them now. It is so sad. Yeah. In the meantime, I want to say thank you so much for watching. As always, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.
You shaky shaky. Bake this cakey.